Pleased to be here. Why am I here? Because my friend Kinnan Golemon asked me to be here. I'm not being paid to be here. I don't represent anyone. I'm here because Kinnan asked me, and then I met Sandra Pfeiffer, and I got to tell you all, I'm not blowing smoke up your dress here. I love me some farmers. I love me some ranchers. Never met a happy farmer, never met a happy rancher either. How's business? Oh, it's okay. Not enough rain, too much rain, prices, oh, well. I'm going to hit you with a stat bomb. So get ready. I'm going to hit you with a ton of numbers. They're not my numbers, they're the numbers. Now, also before I start, is there anyone here from Apex Clean Energy? Or from Next Era Energy or ET Fuels or anybody working for them here? Well, if you are, if you aren't, if you spot any numbers, you think if I've said something wrong, challenge me. I'm happy to engage. But let me get going because there's a lot to talk about. All right. First, you're not alone. When I talked to Sandra the first time, I said, Sandra, I've been working on these issues around rural America, the alternative energy, the backlash to alternative energy in rural America for more than 15 years. And what do I know about this? That you all are special, but you're not unique. I've seen this story over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. An out-of-state, an out-of-country company comes into a neighborhood and says, we want to do this big project. And there are people like Sandra, like many others, mainly women of a certain age, working at their kitchen table, and they're saying, who are these people? What do they want here? How do we respond? My friend Joanna Freebely's here. She's doing the same thing. Joanna, where are you from? Erath County. And we've been emailed many times, and she's been working in Erath County trying to deal with some of these alternative energy projects. So you're not alone. Follow the money. The H stands for hype, and rural people can beat big money. That's what I'm going to talk about today. So let me get rolling. This is the part of the what's happening in America. What is the divide in America, and what is the divide in America that concerns me the most? Well, it's the class divide is one of the things that concerns me the most. And right next to the class divide is the urban-rural divide. You can see this. This is Trump country. These red, where are we? We're Schleicher County right here. That's a red county. And where's the support for a lot of the alternative projects, alternative energy projects, renewables? I don't call them renewable. I don't call them clean. I don't call them green. Those are marketing terms. It's alternative energy. It's alternative to conventional energy. But what we have been seeing is an incredibly effective marketing campaign, green, clean, renewable. Okay, so this divide is economic, it's cultural, it's geographic, and of course, it's political. Okay, so what is happening? Well, opposition to alternative energy is raging all across America, from Hawaii to Maine, and it's happening all around the world, all across Europe, all across Australia. And I can give you the numbers, and I'm going to give you a bunch of numbers. But what have I done in just the last April, so we're in August, so what's that, 17 months ago? My wife, Lauren, is here. She's from Ann Arbor, Michigan. When we were in Ann Arbor visiting her family, we went to Ida Township, about an hour southeast of Ann Arbor. And I thought I was meeting, what is this name? Oh, I forgot her. Oh, what is her name? Well, this is Cheryl Majors right here. I thought I was going to meet one or two people. A dozen people showed up at the diner in Ida Township because they were fighting a solar project being pushed by Apex Clean Energy. And what did they do in Ida Township, which is an ag community? They grow corn and soybeans. What did they do? They recalled some of their township supervisors, recalled them in a recall vote, replaced them with people who are opposed to the solar project, and they kicked Apex butt. Sent them packing. Okay, that's Ida Township. This is a year ago, April. This is just a few months later. I had a speech in Milwaukee, and so I drove to Christiana Township in Wisconsin. Now, if you've been to Wisconsin, this part of Wisconsin, it's a rolling, you can see behind it, this doesn't quite do it justice, it's rolling hills, incredibly fertile soil, some of the best farmland in all of Wisconsin, therefore some of the best farmland in all of the world. Corn and soybeans, picturesque farms, with the silos and the perfectly painted houses and everything. And the plan was, and still is, the township is still fighting it, a project to cover 8 square miles of some of the best farmland in the world with solar panels because the city of Madison, Wisconsin wanted green energy. And the township is getting ready to be rolled over, but these are my friends John Barnes and Roxanne Engelstad. I'm still in touch with them, right? And they're still fighting this project. But this is not unique. You're special, but you're not unique. What's happening in Australia? This is just earlier this year, a project in the town of Mudgee was rejected because the locals fought it. This is in Bulgaria. In fact, people were arrested in Bulgaria for falsifying records around the fertility of ag land, that they had falsified the records so it could be used for solar. That's getting serious about protecting ag land. And that's what another theme that is very clear over the last, really the last year in particular, but really over the last 2 or 3 years, is this battle between ag and ag interests and solar and wind and these interests trying to come in and say, oh, we're going to cover your land with these alternative energy projects. And the local farmers are saying, the hell you are. So Australia, Bulgaria, here's Italy. This is just in June. This is the clip from the Financial Times. I know I'm going through these pretty quickly because dinner's coming up here and I'm not going to keep you here all night. So what do they say? Maloney described the degree as pragmatic measure that corrects the ideological eco-follies of which Italy and its farmers have been victims. That's in the Financial Times 2 months ago. Here's Canada in March of this year. I was just in Calgary 2 weeks ago giving a presentation. And what is happening in Calgary? In Alberta, the provincial government just put in place a 35-kilometer setback, which I think is 22 miles. From any wind or solar project cannot be put within 35 clicks of the Rockies or their national parks in the province of Alberta. And not only that, they're protecting Tier 1 and Tier 2 ag land. And here's the provincial premier. Alberta's residents don't want large-scale developments to interfere with our province's most beautiful natural features. Hello, duh. It could be anywhere, any people, anywhere in the world. Alberta, Canada. Community opposition is a leading cause of these projects being canceled. So the next time you meet with Apex or ET Fuels, ask them how many of your projects have been canceled. Ask Patrick Woodson from ET Fuels how many of his projects have been canceled because of local opposition. Now, if he's serious, he's going to tell you, in reality, a lot of them. So this is a survey that was done just earlier this year by Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, part of the Department of Energy. And what did they say? Within the last 5 years, what have been the leading causes of solar cancellation? Local ordinances or zoning, grid interconnection, and community opposition. Solar and wind both. 60% of the people who responded said their projects are being canceled because of community opposition. That's for wind, and high 50s for solar. Even more for local zoning and ordinances. And how do local ordinances and zoning get put in place? Local people go to their elected representatives and say, we need to fight these people off. We need to place regulations that will protect our land from these climate change carpetbaggers, because that's what they are. This is another survey. This is a slide directly from this Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory survey. What do they say? We expect community opposition to be more of an issue in the future. 49% of solar respondents said yes, that's what they expect. Opposition, more of a problem now, 68%. The same thing with wind and solar, 55 and 58%. Not my numbers, Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory numbers. Here's one of the other things, again, going back to the loss of ag land. This is a direct quote from the same survey, all, remember, of people like Patrick Woodson from ET Fuels or the people from Apex Clean Energy, the very people who are coming into this part of the country to develop your land and turn it into hydrogen and then to methanol. I'll get to those in just a minute. But the people who are doing, the developers you're talking to, are the ones that are responding to this survey. And what are they saying? What are the concerns? How often are the concerns raised by the opposition? Loss of ag land. Kinnan talked about water. He knows more about water than he can forget more about water law than I'll ever learn. If you don't have water, you don't have ag. I'm no farmer, I'm no ranch expert, but that I can tell. This is clear. And for anyone who says that these projects don't hurt property values, they are lying to your face. These are surveys that have been done. This is one by Lawrence Berkeley National Lab by a guy named Ben Hone, who has done a bunch of surveys that says, oh, there's no effect. And I know Phil McCormick is coming up in a minute. He'll tell you all about it. I asked him for a card. He said, I've lived in Eldorado for 54 years. I don't need a card. Okay, everybody knows where to find me. Okay, so he's going to talk about property values. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Here's the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. Solar projects can reduce the value of nearby properties as much as 5.6%. Solar, this is a survey of property sales in Rhode Island. Homes within 1/10 of a mile went down by 7%. What about wind? This is the one that's obvious. Oh, those 700-foot high wind turbines aren't going to reduce my property value. All right, sure, yeah, of course they won't. This is London School of Economics in 2016. Property prices are going up in places where wind projects ain't, and down in places where they are. He didn't say ain't, I said ain't. Aachen University in Germany, of asking prices for properties whose view was strongly affected by wind turbines decreased to 9 to 14%. Another German study, RWI. Why would anything be different in the United States than it is in Germany? It isn't. People, landowners are landowners. Home buyers, land buyers are the same. What do they want? They want view sheds. They don't want to look at red blinking lights all night, every night for the rest of their lives. And yet that is what is at stake with these big wind projects. And let me be clear. Yeah, I'm a longtime critic of the wind business, proudly so. They don't like me, I don't like them back. How stout is the opposition across the country? It is so stout that in 4 heavily Democratic states, New York, California, Michigan, and Illinois, the state level, the legislatures have passed measures that allow effectively the bureaucrats in their state capitals to Bigfoot local communities and force them to take projects they don't want. That's how bad, or how significant rather, the backlash is. Okay, so what about wind? I travel a lot. I travel a lot in rural America. And I'm incredibly lucky to do what I do. And it's one of the reasons why I came here, because I thought, let me go out there and see for myself what's going on in Eldorado. And I also got to see my cousin, Charles Bryce, who's from San Angelo. And I said, hey, come on out to Eldorado. He says, oh, that's too far. No, he didn't. He showed up anyway. Former writer for the San Angelo Standard Times, by the way, my cousin Charles. I'm proud of him. Okay, so last year I was in Des Moines, Iowa. Des Moines, Iowa is not far from Madison County. This is the Roseman Bridge in Madison County, one of the most famous bridges in America, along with the Brooklyn Bridge, Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, name another famous bridge in America. I can't. I know those 3. Well, there's no wind turbine there, but in about 2021, there was a backlash against a proposed project proposed by Mid-American Energy, a subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway. And there was a recall election in the Board of Supervisors in Madison County. They put in new supervisors, including my friend Heather Stansel. They passed an ordinance prohibiting new wind projects. And what happened? Mid-American Energy sued them. Now, this is a PR blunder of all time, right? A subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway suing this little county. Well, they eventually withdrew the suit, and the project was canceled, and the residents said, how awesome. This is a story I wrote in Forbes. Okay, but it's not, of course, just in Iowa, Cherokee County, Kansas, Reno County, Kansas, San Bernardino County, California, the largest county by area in America, over 2,000 square miles, and you cannot build large-scale wind or solar in San Bernardino County, California, in a state that has a 100% clean electricity mandate by 2045. How many of you read about that in the New York Times? Doesn't fit the narrative, does it? You didn't read about the Mid-American Energy thing in Madison County, Iowa in the New York Times or the Washington Post, and you certainly didn't hear it on National Public Radio. Doesn't fit the narrative about clean, green, renewable, right? This is all because climate change, of course, is our only concern. No. What's my view on climate change? Climate change is a concern. It's not our only concern, ladies and gentlemen. I'll come back to the issue of what's going on with the hydrogen hype in just a minute. Meeker and Chippewa counties, Minnesota. Bernie Sanders, of course, is from Vermont. There are no wind projects under construction in Vermont. Bernie Sanders is the most vocal a proponent of alternative energy in the US Senate. You can't build large-scale solar in Vermont either. Gage County, Nebraska. And then here is San Bernardino County. This is in the Golan Heights in Israel. This is a year ago, June. There's a project being built by Energix, an Israeli company in the Golan Heights. The Druze Arabs have lived in the Golan for centuries. When they started building this project, the local Druze rioted for days. Dozens of people went to the hospital. Wasn't covered in the New York Times. When the rioting ended, the Israeli police went to Netanyahu and said, you want to build this project? Go ahead, we're not going to provide security. Israel has other concerns today. These are the rejections of wind energy that have occurred since 2015. I've documented every one of them, entered every one of them in the renewable rejection database, which is on my website, robertbryce.com. You can Google the renewable rejection database. It may help you in your dealing with these outsiders coming into your region. You are special, you're not unique. So these numbers are going up. They went up dramatically. This is particularly in the state of the state of Ohio, after the Ohio legislature passed a measure that assured the primacy of local zoning rights when it came to solar and wind projects. Here are the solar rejections. It's at least 195. There have actually been a couple more in the last few days. And these are the totals, at least 710. I've updated the renewable rejection database just in the last few days. I think that number is 712. Some of the most recent ones were in Polk County Township in Pennsylvania, rejected a big solar project proposed by Samsung. And then there was a big solar project in Louisiana that was proposed by Entergy that was voted down by parish officials in that parish in Louisiana. So what about hydrogen? The H stands for hype. We have been hearing the hype about hydrogen for decades. This is a snippet of the hearing, June 10th, 1975, less than 2 years after the first Arab oil embargo or the first oil shock. And here is the quote from U.S. Representative Mike McCormick. I won't read it to you. More hydrogen hype. The H stands for hype. Jeremy Rifkin's book in 2003, talking about the turning toward hydrogen as a promissory note for a safer world. Here is, during the George W. Bush administration, the National Academy of Engineering and the National Research Council put out this 230-page study. It could have been written yesterday in terms of what are the challenges facing the hydrogen business. Oh, all we need is dramatic progress in the development of fuel cells, storage device distributions. Widespread success is not certain. 20 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm an old man. Not as old as Kinnan Golemon, but I'm an old man. I'm Social Security eligible. I've traveled a lot. I've been very, very lucky in my career. I've seen 3 fuel cells in my lifetime. 3. This idea that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to have lots of fuel cells or we're going to have fuel cell vehicles. I don't believe it. It's hype. We've been inundated with the hype, and the hype continues today. This was a piece that was in the New York Times in April. I wrote a Substack about it, and the headline on that was the H stands for hype. Here's the New York Times. What are my politics, by the way? I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm disgusted. I'm totally, deeply disgusted. Absolutely 100% disgusted. Okay, I can vote for the Democrat, or I can vote for the Republican, or I can vote for Robert Kennedy, who 10 years ago dumped a dead baby bear cub in New York Central Park. Did you see this story? Oh, well, of course you did. What else would you do? And now you're running for president. That just instills confidence in me because I always carry a dead baby bear cub in my car. Here's the New York Times. I've looked at this line this is the paper of record. Supposedly the people who are experts. Hydrogen as a renewable energy source. Hello? A renewable energy source? Hydrogen has to be made. It has to be manufactured. It is not a source. Calling hydrogen a renewable energy source is like calling Stormy Daniels an actress. It's not this. No, that's wrong. Your categories are wrong. Okay, so what about hydrogen? Let's talk about the making of it. The way it is generally made, 98% of all the hydrogen production in the world today is made from hydrocarbons. Not fossil fuels, hydrocarbons, coal, oil, natural gas. And of that, about 78% is produced from natural gas through a process called steam methane reforming. They put natural gas into these reformers under high pressure and steam and separate out the hydrogen. That's an energy-intensive process, but nothing like electrolysis, where you're splitting a very stable molecule, H2O, just cleaving off the H2 and leaving the O. Well, what do you have to do? It takes 1.5 units of megajoules in this case, and I'm going to use SI units for you today. I could call this BTUs, I could call it gallons of gasoline or diesel fuel. The ratio is still the same. 1.5 units in to 1 unit out of hydrogen. And then you have a molecule that's incredibly small, hard to tank, hard to use, hard to store, hard to transport. This is a screen grab from ET Fuel's own website. They put in solar and wind electricity and water. They use electrolysis, and they have to add CO2. And this may be the problem that ends up tripping up all of these projects. Where are they going to get the carbon dioxide? Because you can produce the hydrogen, but it doesn't mean you have the carbon dioxide to combine it with in an exothermic reaction. My friend MJ Yan is here. He could talk me through the chemistry. I act like I know my chemistry. I only kind of do. But nevertheless, you have to combine the hydrogen with carbon dioxide. Where's it going to come from? It's not clear at all from where it will come. And then you're going to turn it into methanol. Okay, well, methanol is a pretty good motor fuel. Actually, dragsters and funny cars, they run on methanol. It's very high octane, and it's actually, runs really well in super high horsepower engines. And so, but they're going to produce methanol. The energy density is 4,600 watt hours per liter. Diesel is 10,700. How many use diesel on your farms, your ranches? A lot of you. Well, imagine having to have your tank twice that size for the same amount of energy. Well, you can do it, but it's not necessarily the most efficient way to make things happen. So hydrogen is, in fact, as my friend Steve Brick said, a thermodynamic obscenity. You have to put more energy in than you get out. How many of you are investors in the stock market or investors of any kind? How many of you want to put $1,000 in investment and be assured it's going to go down by, a third? How many of you would make that trade? I don't see any hands going up. That's the story here. That's the entire story here. It's an energy loser from top to bottom. And yet they're putting it forward with a straight face. So here's Bloomberg New Energy Finance, their report from last year, where they talk about, this is from 2020. So they say to meet 24% of global energy consumption, and they call that 99 exajoules, which is too low, but nevertheless, that's their number. 700 million metric tons of hydrogen would be used, 24%. Meeting that 24% would require 3,300 terawatt hours of electricity. This is Bloomberg New Energy Finance saying this. 24% of global energy for 31,000 terawatt hours. Total global electricity production today is only 29,000 terawatt hours. From where do they think all this electricity will magically come? It makes no sense whatsoever. But let me keep going here. So what are the comparisons again? This is the key. Compare things. That helps you bring them into focus. The US uses about 94 exajoules. I could call them quadrillion BTUs if you like. It's also roughly equal to 94 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. So don't let the exajoule trip you up. It's an SI unit. Kilo, mega, giga, tera, peta, exazeta, iota. You know your SI units. Nod. Kilo, mega, giga, tera. Yes. Yoda. You know Yoda. 10 to the 24th. Yes, you know Yoda. The US uses 94 exajoules a year just to meet just the US energy needs then with hydrogen, according to Bloomberg, would require all global electricity. All global electricity. Is that going to happen? I somehow doubt it. Okay, so here we are in Schleicher County. I actually drew this in. It actually kind of came out okay in PowerPoint here. Okay, so what about Texas? Texas uses 14% of US energy, 13 exajoules. It would require roughly all US electricity just for Texas if we're going to go down the hydrogen route. Not my numbers, ladies and gentlemen, the numbers. I've taken Bloomberg's numbers, Bloomberg New Energy Finance, and put them in a different context. So I hope that I'm making this higher resolution so you can understand the absolute absurdity of the entire affair. And it's one of the reasons why I came, because when Kinnan told me, hey, would you look at this? And I started looking at this and I thought, this is really incredible. I mean, it truly is incredible. Like, they don't think we're paying attention. No, well, if you pay attention, you learn things. Okay, so then this is from the same 2020 report in Bloomberg New Energy Finance. Add to this, so that you can read it, total renewable energy generation, excluding hydro, would need to top 60,000 terawatt hours from 3,000 terawatt hours today. Oh, so only a 20x increase. Only. But it's in remarkably dry language. Oh, and then China, Europe, Japan, Korea may not have enough suitable land to generate the renewable power required. Oh, well, maybe they have some extra land out there in Tom Green County, or Schleicher County, or Kimball County, or Concho, or Macola, flyover country. That's what's happening. That is the story. That's the story as plain as I can see it. And again, I got no dog in this fight. But that's what's going on here. So what's driving this? Follow the money. Willie Sutton was one of the first people ever on the FBI's most wanted list. They asked him why he robs banks. That's where the money is. Hello, duh. So, come on now. Brooks, can you advance that for me? There we go. Show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome. Charlie Munger, the late former vice chair at Berkshire Hathaway. I mentioned Warren Buffett, I will mention Warren Buffett. So what are the incentives for hydrogen? $3 per kilogram under the Inflation Reduction Act, under the Section 45V. It provides $3 per kilogram. Okay, well, when you convert that to exajoules, I give you the same common denominator. What is the total subsidy? $25 billion per exajoule. Compare that to solar. It's 9x solar. The solar subsidies are ridiculous. The wind subsidies are ridiculous. It's 47x wind. It's 1,900 times the subsidy given to nuclear power. Why aren't we building nuclear power in the United States? Well, gee, I wonder. Why are all these companies trying to build hydrogen? Show me the incentives. I'll show you the outcome. Next slide, please. Hello. There we go. Okay, so I've talked about SI units. Here you go. Kilo, mega, giga, tera, peta, exa, zeta, iota. I talked about this. This is your quick SI unit primer. 1 exajoule is roughly equal to 1 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Next slide, please. The U.S. is now producing record quantities of natural gas. How far is Midland from here? 170 miles? The heart of the Permian Basin is 170 miles north-northwest, west-northwest. The Permian Basin today is producing 18 billion cubic feet of gas. 18 BCF a day in the Permian today, and there's not a single gas rig running in the Permian. You know this, right? It's all coming out of the ground as associated gas. And the U.S. is now, thank you, now producing as much gas as Canada. I told you I was in Calgary 2 weeks ago, and this stunned me. The U.S. alone is producing more gas than Canada, China, India, Iran, Norway, and Qatar combined, and yet now there's this push on to produce hydrogen as a substitute gas for natural gas. Why does that make sense? It doesn't make any sense. Why? Because the market price of natural gas, if you go back to your exajoules, right? I showed you the SI units. 1 exajoule is roughly 1 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. In the market today will cost you $2.17 billion. Henry Hub price today is what, $2.17 per million BTU? Do the conversion. The subsidies, ladies and gentlemen, for hydrogen is 11 times the market price of natural gas. It's outrageous. It's full on total bonkers crazy town. But yet that's why these companies are coming into your area, because the money. Show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome. And by the way, happy to share these slides with you. I've seen some people taking pictures. Happy to give them to you. Came here for free. Well, actually, Sandra gave me the most delicious piece of coconut cream pie today. Oh, man. I would drive to El Paso for that coconut cream pie. So what is this? What is going on? It is a run on the Treasury in the name of climate change, under the pretext of climate change. Here's Warren Buffett. I won't read it to you. Why are they building wind turbines? Because they get tax credits. So who is Apex? Again, I'm going to be really quick here. I've already been talking 30 minutes, and I could go on for hours, believe me. My wife, Lauren, will tell you, oh, yeah, you could go on. Yeah, you could go on. So Apex, they're saying 4 counties, Menard, Kimball, Sutton, and Schleicher. What's interesting about them, and I think really disappointing, I could use other words, because I've followed Apex for a very long time, they don't disclose that they're owned by Ares Management Corporation. Ares Management Corporation is based in Los Angeles and has a market capitalization of $44 billion. You can look on Apex's website, and if you find it, send it to me. Because I've looked, I don't see a single mention of the fact that they're owned by Ares Management. It's a deceptive approach. Oh, we're this upstart. And so when did they acquire the majority? This was in 2021 when Ares bought them. The market capitalization is $44 billion. We're aligned on a common mission to accelerate the shift to clean energy. Never been more urgent. It's a run on the Treasury in the name of climate change. Oh, never been more urgent, the energy transition. Never been more urgent because there's a lot of money to be made by companies like Ares, which is traded on the New York Exchange. So who is ET Fuels? And what do they say on their website? Again, the world needs to do more now, faster than ever. Faster than ever. Well, because, climate change. And who is ET Fuels? They're based in Dublin, and they're backed by EXFI and SWIN. EXFI is based in Zurich, and SWIN is based in Paris. They have no reported revenue. And their goal, is, now, is to produce methanol. I've already talked about that. They have approximately 14 employees. They're working on projects here, Finland, and Spain. What about NextEra, a company that I've followed for a long time? I sent both Apex and NextEra a long list of questions asking for, footprint, total cost, megawatts, et cetera. ET Fuels, to their credit, responded, gave me some good information. I emailed Apex yesterday, no reply. Emailed NextEra this morning, no reply. And I've been at this a while. I'm a reporter, right? I'm not, I'm here. I understand I'm here to tell you to report on what is going on. So if these companies are up front, why aren't they disclosing all the information? Why aren't they willingly disclosing this? Because they don't want you to know. That's why. They want to get as many leases in place and get as much progress in place before they have a town meeting, and then they're going to tell you, well, you can't really stop us now. That's the game. So following NextEra, they're the biggest producer of alternative energy. They're very aggressive. They sued the town of Hinton, Oklahoma, to try to force the town to accept a wind project. They sued them in state and federal court. And when they did that, I thought, okay, hold on here. I went to Hinton. I interviewed the town mayor, the town lawyer. My mother grew up and was raised in Enid, Oklahoma, a town a little bigger than the town of Hinton. And here is a company that's worth $160 billion trying to Bigfoot a local community like Hinton, Oklahoma. And they're one of the most admired corporations in America, by the way. Here is a screen grab from their latest financial statement. Here are their tax credit carry forwards, $3.7 billion. It has nothing to do with climate change. It has everything to do with subsidies. Okay, so what about Tierra Alta? This is what some of the questions that I got answered. They're looking at 485 acre feet of water per year. I can't tell you how many gallons are in an acre feet. It's a lot. 300 megawatts of solar. Battery storage is unspecified. 70 wind turbines, 300 megawatts of solar, 50 permanent jobs. They claimed $80 million per year in property taxes. That's what they said. I don't know any way to fact check that. But again, did not specify the source of the CO2. And in talking to a friend of mine who's an engineer and an expert on alcohol, methanol, and ethanol production, he said, that's going to be their big problem. Where are they going to get the CO2? Okay, so let's move on. 100,000 tons of methanol sounds like a lot. Is it a lot? Well, do the math. Run through the numbers. Energy density is 22 megajoules per kilogram. A ton contains, therefore, 22,000 megajoules. That if you divide 100,000 tons by 365 days per year, you get 274 tons a day, 6 million megajoules. Energy density of crude is 44 megajoules, which is about 6,000 megajoules per barrel. Therefore, a lot of numbers. The total output of Tierra Alta, covering 30,000 acres, 47 square miles, is less than 1,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day. We're 175 miles from the Permian Basin. New Permian rigs, this is a graphic from the EIA, new rigs in the Permian, new wells rather, are producing 1,300 barrels per day on a footprint of a fraction. Now the new wells, multi-well pads, are putting 5, 6, 10 wells per pad that cover maybe 40 or 50 acres. One well covering, let's call it 10 acres. One well in the Permian is producing more energy total than what Tierra Alta is proposing to produce over 30,000 acres. And I called my friend Bud Brigham the day before yesterday. He does a lot of drilling in the Permian. His new wells are producing between 1,500 and 2,000 barrels per day. And some of them are producing 3,000 barrels a day. So here's the direct comparison. Tierra Alta, off of all this footprint, will produce 32% less than a single barrel of oil in the Permian. And that doesn't account for the associated gas coming out of the oil well. These aren't my numbers. These are the numbers. I've taken their numbers, converted them into the common denominator, barrels of oil equivalent per day. It's astonishing, isn't it? I mean, it's truly stunning what is being proposed as, this is such a great thing, economic development. Did you see Apex Clean Energy's latest piece where they were here in Schleicher County talking to people, this is going to be so great. Well, if it's so great, why is the energy production so small? Wait a minute. Wait, I'm going the wrong way. Here we are. Okay, yeah. So here I was, 32% less. So the Permian now is producing 6 million barrels a day. Record production. Oil production in the U.S. now, even under this administration, is 13.4 million barrels a day, a new record. 13.4 million a day, and the Permian is leading in that production. Production in the Permian now is 6.3 million a day. This is, you could be in Midland for dinner tonight. Well, if you hurry. That's what's happening. You need 6,400 Tierra Altas to equal the production of one major oil field in Texas. Total bonkers, crazy town, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to trademark that line, by the way. Total bonkers, crazy town. Okay, so what about the money? Let's go back to the money. What's motivating all this? So Apex Next Era ETF, will they be triple dipping? So I've talked about the 45V tax credit. That's the one for hydrogen, $3 per kilogram. So at 100,000 tons a year, the math is easy, $300 million out of an $800 million projected cost will be available to them in year one in tax credits from the hydrogen alone. But it appears, and I'm not going to say this is absolutely lead pipe certain, they're also going to collect the production tax credit for the wind and the investment tax credit at 30% of the cost of the investment. They could collect $415 million in year one in tax credits by coming into Schleicher County and covering 30,000 acres with wind turbines, solar panels, and batteries. And now the batteries, I didn't list that because I thought, leave that one alone. They could also get, as I understand it, the investment tax credit for the batteries too. So you may add another, 50 million, 100 million, I don't know that number. One of the numbers I didn't get to. I'm giving you plenty of numbers. So what's the punchline? These things would make Rube Goldberg blush. I mean, full on. You're going to do all this for this small amount of energy production? Really? And the answer apparently is yes. Negative energy return on energy invested. As I told you, 1.5 units of energy in for 1 unit out. And this, if this is the other one that I thought about, and I've thought about this a lot over the last week. If any of this made sense, they'd done it already. So why now? And what's the hurry? Well, I think part of it is they're worried, well, maybe Trump gets elected, who knows? I don't know what's gonna happen in November. I'm as confused as a voter as I've ever been, and maybe as unexcited as a voter as I've ever been. But maybe the Inflation Reduction Act gets pared back. Well, so they're gonna try and hurry up and get it done. That seems to me why the press is on. I don't know that, but it's not a done deal. This was in Bloomberg New Energy Finance, Bloomberg News just 2 days ago. That's their headline, not mine. Why almost nobody is buying green hydrogen. Oh, and by the way, okay, so let me just back up. Okay, so where's this? Okay, so it's gonna produce less than one well in the Permian. Don't forget, on the energy return on energy invested, they're gonna have to truck in the CO2, and they're gonna have to truck out the methanol. And where's the methanol market that they say? The ship channel. They're gonna ocean-going ships. So the energy return on energy invested, which I'm talking about here, it may be even more negative than what I've already laid out. The whole thing makes no sense. From a land use standpoint, from a physics standpoint, from a thermodynamic standpoint, makes no sense whatsoever, except for the tax credits. But it's not a done deal. So what are the issues that I see coming from Austin, coming into Schleicher County and getting to visit with my friend Kinnan, my new friends, the Pfeiffers? You're not alone. You're special, but you're not unique. Because small counties, small towns all across the country, all across Europe, in Australia, facing similar kinds of battles. And what do I know after reporting on this for a long time? If local people are organized and pissed off and active, and they stay organized and they stay active and they continue to fight, and they get, in particular, engaged local officials and proper regulation, you can beat these projects. Now, they may fail of their own accord because the economics are so bad, right? Or actually the physics are so bad. But the reality is that the key is finding the pressure points. And how do you execute, how do you put more pressure on those pressure points? And I think it's your elected officials, water districts, co-ops, county commissions, local school boards, everyone. Get them engaged to understand what is at stake. This is my docuseries that came out in January. It's had over 3 million views. I'm really proud of it. My friend and colleague Tyson Culver did a great job. Each episode's about 20 minutes. Check it out. If I was better at marketing, this is my documentary that came out now 4 years ago. It's available on YouTube. These are my books. If I had a better book, I'd be holding it up here saying, buy my book. I don't have it. I've written 6 books. Remember, you don't have to read them. You just have to buy them. And if you buy it on your Kindle, I make a better royalty. I'll stop here. I write on Substack. I'm incredibly fortunate to do what I do. Incredibly lucky and honored to be invited here to talk to all y'all, as we say in Oklahoma, about these projects. And the more I looked at them, the more offended and almost amused I became. You have a big challenge ahead of you. The money is on the other side. The media largely is on the other side. There's a lot of momentum on the other side. But what I know, and I know it very clearly, is that after looking at this, working on this, talking to dozens and dozens of people across rural America and in Europe, local people can win. Rural folks can win. They can keep these projects at bay. But pack a lunch, because it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be quick. And they're going to have a lot of patience because they have a lot of money, and they have the kind of money that can allow them to be patient and say, oh, you don't like that? Well, we'll come back with this one. Oh, you don't like that? We'll come back with this one. Or we'll put it over here, or we'll change it. I know I've given you a lot of data. I've given you a lot of numbers. They're not my numbers, they're the numbers. But I wish you all the success. I recognize your struggle, and I recognize the battle, and I recognize the drought. But as Kinnan said, this is about, fundamentally, I haven't talked about water at all. But that's the nut of the whole thing. But when you look at these other numbers, the physics and the thermodynamics around it, it's just, none of it makes any sense to me. And I've been incredibly fortunate in my career. I've been in coal mines, I've been in steel factories, I've been in refineries. I've never seen a project that makes less sense than these ones. Thank you very kindly.